So the brain is a fascinating and complex part of the human body. It involves networks of nerve cells that form our thoughts, our feelings, our memories. And it is through our brain that we smell items in our environment, that we perceive sounds, that we perceive visual information like faces, or that we see places. Everything is processed through our brain. So if we have here some examples of areas, when we see information that comes from the outside world, it's going to be processed through the back of our brain in an area of the brain called the occipital cortex. So here it's identified as visual cortex. That information, when we process it in terms of the visual information around us, actually sends information directly to a part of the brain called the parietal cortex. So this is to perceive the space around us. So when we grasp objects around us, it's because we have areas of our parietal cortex that tells us where they are, where these objects are in our space around us. But then we also have visual information that goes down the temporal lobes along the ear over here, and then where I'm pointing here along this part of brain. So it's called the temporal lobe. This is where we process information for objects that we're going to recognize. So to be able to recognize a cup as a cup, we actually need to have an intact temporal cortex. And then if we want to take other examples, we have auditory information that projects to an area here of the temporal lobe that is superior, so on top of this visual area. It's called Heschel's gyrus, and that's what allows us to hear and to understand words. So if these areas are damaged, we won't understand speech, we won't understand what people say to us, or we can even be deaf. And then just a last area I'd like to talk about, which is really important, is the frontal lobe. So the frontal lobe is important for decision and executive function inhibition. What does that mean? When we want to make decisions in our life, like be able to choose a certain job that we want to apply to or go to work, we use some of these areas to make plans and decide what we're going to do in our lives. So there's some case studies of patients who actually had damage to that part of the brain and couldn't understand why they stopped getting their paycheck when they stopped going to work. So they would not show up for work day after day, and then they didn't receive money, but they didn't understand. They thought they should still get money. So you can see that this part of the brain is really important for understanding the relationship between the things that we do and what to expect out of it. So it's a planning and decision-making area.